Have you ever watched a student shut down the second something gets hard? Not try, just stop. Have you ever watched a student hit one small challenge and then immediately give up? They don't try a second strategy. They don't ask their peers for any support. They just shut down. And maybe that looks like head on the table, or they're talking to someone else, but they're just not actually trying, you know. And it can be really easy to think, oh, that student's not motivated or they're not resilient. And while both of those things can be true, more and more students aren't lacking resilience. They've learned that failure is something to avoid at all costs. And so they don't initiate a task. They don't continue when things get hard. If you say something like, oh, great start, we're actually doing something else. You get the, ugh, or I don't even want to do this. Or a new thing that I'm getting is, well, I'm trying my hardest. And you might think to yourself, did you read the instructions? Did you hear me say the instructions, write the instructions down, and give everybody the visual of what it's supposed to look like when it's done? But it is really tricky because it's extremely frustrating. You're thinking, is this an executive functioning issue? How come haven't followed these steps through? But I know for me, both with the students I work with and my own daughter, the issue is really a little bit of learned helplessness and a huge fear of getting something wrong, as if the world is going to open up and swallow them up whole. That's how afraid they are of it. And I think a reason or a way to explain that is about thinking, what are the environments that students are used to, right? School rewards answers that are right. Mistakes are corrected really quickly, and speed is often valued over thinking because our classrooms are full to the breaking point. They're maxed out. We don't have enough help. There's so much need, and there's that fear of not getting through all of the curriculum. And all of those pressure points are hitting us as teachers, and we're not spending the extra time going over mistakes and talking about how mistakes are just a process of learning. Instead, we're skipping the journey and we're trying to get the kids straight to the end. And it's really hurting them. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, it's hurting us too. We didn't get into education in order to jump over hurdles that have been given to us that have nothing to do with education by people who aren't even in the classrooms. We got into teaching, or at least I got into teaching, because I wanted to build curiosity. I wanted students to take learning by the reins and really go for it. And I wanted to be able to show students that if you're passionate about anything, road biking, ocelots, anything, you can turn that passion into absolute learning. You can read about that and gain reading skills. You can figure that out with math. There's so many different things you can put your passions towards in education. But with all the stress, all the overwhelm, and constantly trying to make sure you don't burn out, we're put in a place where we have to start prioritizing just getting things right and knowing what the right answer is, rather than understanding how to get the strategies to do it. And so because the speed is often valued over thinking, students start to internalize, well, if I don't get it right away, I'm not good at this. And once that belief sets in, trying becomes risky. Because if I'm not good at this, why am I doing it anyways? Because trying means possibly being wrong publicly, in front of my friends, in front of my teacher. And students, they're perceptible. You might not say, ugh, you didn't get it right again, but there might be a little sigh, or there might be a little face falling into it. And students know that, and they don't want that. And because of all of that pressure that you're experiencing, that they're experiencing, and how it's a public space in front of, that you might fail in front of 27 other students, giving up becomes the safer option. So what do we do? Well, I think if we want students to take risks, persist, and actually learn, we have to change what failure feels like in our classrooms. And you might be thinking, well, how am I supposed to do that? Or I make mistakes in front of my students, and they know that making mistakes is fine. Or we've done a whole unit on growth mindset, And those are all great. But are you showing them what it means to make like a high stakes mistake? I talked about this in one of my other episodes. And yeah, it's great to show them that you don't know how to spell everything, so you're going to go check it up in a dictionary or on the computer. And yes, it's great that sometimes even you forget that there's an assembly in the afternoon. But what about high stakes mistakes? What are you showing your students that you actually do sometimes get wrong and that it's okay and that you can move on from it? We really need to normalize struggling out loud. We need students to see that everyone struggles. Successful people struggle, teachers struggle, administrators struggle. People get things wrong, and it's okay that you're getting things wrong. It is just a part of life. I think, yes, it's really good to understand that mistakes are a part of learning, but we also need to understand that mistakes are a part of life and you can get through them. And there is another side of the mistake. Once you get through it, life is still good. The sky is still blue. Nothing is falling down. And the more that they can build that, the better it is. So yeah, struggle out loud. Don't just say mistakes are okay. Model it constantly using high stakes mistakes. Say things like, this is the part where it's supposed to feel tricky. This was hard for me. I actually forgot about this and had to relearn it. If it's easy, we're probably not learning. I think that's really important to say. And that's something that I've been saying for the last 2 years in my classroom. If this was supposed to be easy, we wouldn't be here. If you already knew this, we would be moving on to something that you didn't already know. If you found this easy, we would be moving on to more challenging things. Yes, some things in life are easy, and that's great. We need those things where we have that prior knowledge and it's easy to learn for us because it makes those challenging times, one, better because you're like, well, I know I'm good at this. I'm very smart. I can get through this. And also, you can model how, yes, this is easy now, but when was it not easy? When we move through challenging things, it's hard. But at some point, that does become easy. So we can get there. I really believe in this, and I hope you're doing this because you should be narrating your own thinking for the students. When you're trying a problem, oh, this actually happened to me this past week. I'm doing multi-digit subtraction for some students who aren't understanding it in their classroom. And we're doing it. And I really try to do a lot of whiteboard stuff. I don't really think we need paper all the time because, the environment. And so we're doing whiteboard work. And I always just put up questions because I know the strategies that they're working on. And so I put them up, but I didn't think because I was trying to do something else. It gave them a really hard one that they had never done anything like that before. And so they all kind of got the answer wrong. And I didn't realize this until I was like, okay, now let's do the question together. And I was like, oh no, oh no. I was like, I gave you a really hard question and I'm so sorry I wasn't thinking. And we talked about it and they told me their answers. And I was like, you did the best you could. You did great with the ones. You did great with the tens. The hundreds was really difficult. I said, really good job. And also, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I should have been paying more attention. And so it was great because they saw me, they were helping me do the question. And then when I realized how difficult it was, they saw me apologize and they understood that. And they understood that sometimes mistakes happen and it has nothing to do with them. And so that was good. So I talked about how that question would be done and we moved on. And it's really important because you are teaching students that struggle is a part of the process and it's not a signal to stop. You're also teaching the students that just because you're struggling now doesn't mean you're going to always be struggling with this. This will turn into something easier for you, or at least something that you remember enough to get started. Okay, so teaching students that struggle is part of the process. It's not a signal to stop. Another tip is to really slow down that rescue instinct. While tip 1 was like normalizing the struggle out loud, tip 2, I really need you to start slowing down. This one yeah, is really hard for teachers. When a student is stuck, our instinct, or maybe the education assistants or teacher assistant, their instinct is to jump in and help right away. Right away. And that's lovely because you're thinking, well, I don't want this is going to turn into something too big, and we really just want to smooth things over. And I get that, but that is not the way to do it. So for my daughter, her EA, or the EA in her classroom, would be like, oh, here, I'll start it for you. And so what did she learn? That she couldn't start anything because she was not smart enough to start something. And that was a big thing for her to learn, because I didn't know that that's what she was learning. But when she got home and we would start doing different things, cooking, something like that, she'd be like, I don't know how to do this. I can't start it because I don't know what to do. You have to start it for me. And I was like, since when? We've never done that before. And she told me, and she's like, I don't know how to start anything. Mr. starts everything for me because I don't know how to do it. I'm not smart enough. That was huge. And I had to have meetings at the school, of course. And I had to have huge talks with my daughter for months. It took months to get her out of that. And think of it. So that was grade 3. So for kindergarten, preschool, kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, she could start tasks. She could do her work. Everything was fine. She had one person do one thing over and over again for however long, and she completely did not trust herself anymore. She did not think she was smart enough to start a task at all. And then, of course, then the classroom, the teacher and the EA get frustrated. She can't start a task. She can't start a task. Well, something's new here because she could. And it took a lot. If I'm being honest, it took getting out of that classroom. So it took the rest of that school year, plus the summer, plus getting out of that classroom where she can finally, and she's thriving. Of course she is, because she was before. So yeah, when we rescue too quickly, we accidentally reinforce the fact that students will be like, well, if I don't get it immediately, someone else will do the thinking for me. Or if I don't get it immediately, that means I'm not smart enough to get it immediately, so I need someone else to start me off. So instead, ask a guiding question and wait. And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to wait because you can feel the student struggling. It's uncomfortable to wait because you have 20 plus other students begging for your attention. But ask the guiding question, wait, let them be uncomfortable. Let them sit in discomfort a little longer than feels natural to you, because that's where the growth actually happens. Also, I find if you're working with some students, it can be really important to ask the question, wait, and then ask the exact same question again with the exact same words in it. Because when we change the question, all of a sudden, a student who might be neurodivergent or just have, for whatever reason, be thinking about your question a little bit longer than you think they need to be. If you ask them the same question but differently, all of a sudden it's a different question to that student. So please ask the same exact question using the same exact words a second time, okay? It is a slow process. You will all get to it. Remember, it's the journey. Tip number 3, praise the process, not the outcome. Okay, if we only celebrate correct answers, students learn that success is being right. But instead, we really want to be highlighting effort, strategy, persistence. So you need to say things like, I noticed you try a different approach. That is strong thinking. Oh, I can see you tried this strategy, it didn't work, so you tried this strategy. That is amazing. Great job. I saw you get frustrated, but then when I looked at you again, you were doing the work. You stuck with that, even when it was frustrating. How does that make you feel? I'm proud of you. How do you feel about your work? Because right now you're shifting the goal from being right to learning. And that is so important. And I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I always say, I'm so proud of you. Are you proud of yourself? How do you feel about yourself? That's what I like to do. So if students are giving up quickly, it's not just about motivation. It's about what they've learned school is for. If they think school is for being right and not for making mistakes, getting things messy, and getting things wrong. If failure feels unsafe, students will absolutely avoid it. But if we can make struggle normal, if we can make our thinking visible for our students, and we can make their effort valuable, we start to change that story. If this resonates with you, subscribe to Pedagogically Speaking. This is exactly what we unpack here. Thank you for joining. See you next time.